everybody. This is Angel Rivera, and this is Angel in the Afternoon. And today I have a special guest here, Karen, her third appearance on the show, I think. And welcome. How are you doing tonight?
Hi, I'm so excited to be back and hanging out with
Mm-hmm.
you.
Me too. I mean, great to have you on.
Always
Uh,
fun.
hmm Yeah, and hope how was your week?
How was my week? I would, it was up and down. It was just, I feel like we're all just very in a survival mode, and
Yeah, that's for
I
sure.
don't know. I'm just watching the decay of our world. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I my week is okay until yesterday. So,
What happened to
um,
you?
oh, well, if you, I put it on Twitter, kind of, but I'll talk about it here real quick. I'm taking the garbage out last yesterday afternoon, and I slipped on the stairs and nearly fell.
Oh no.
If I didn't hold on to the railing, I would have completely fallen, hit my head a couple times, and but then now I injured my knee though, so it's either my head or my knee. So it's like,
Were you able to go to get an x-ray or get an assessment? Did you go to the
no,
ER?
not yet. I mean, it's just pain, It's not like it's swollen or anything. So I had a little knee brace that I might have on right now, so should be fine.
You gotta be
Yeah,
careful, like knees hold grudges.
yeah, I know. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's why I had my old knee brace. Hello, Mister Perfect is perfect. Thank you for joining us. And yeah, I mean, I had an old knee brace which I put on. It's better. I can walk on it, but if the pain continues, I'm probably gonna go see a doctor.
It Have you done ice?
Yeah, yeah, that's not nice. But other than that, I mean, it's just pretty painful and stuff.
Is it swollen? Does it feel like there's fluid?
No, it's just just pain. Thank God it's not swollen. Because if it was swollen, then I'd be worried because there's something messed up there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing. Hopefully, it's just a minor. It's just a sprain, and it'll recover on its own. If not, then I'm looking at. Excuse me. I'm looking at an X-ray and MRI at the very least, and then we'll go from there. But I expect everything to be fine.
Yeah, well, we want you walking when you're 50, man. You gotta take care of yourself.
Yeah, yeah, that's the truth. So let's get started because at 9, INN News goes live tonight, so I have to wrap up by 8:30 or a
Okay.
little bit before 9. So,
Okay.
oops, that's way too small. There you go. Hello, Mastermind. Thanks for joining us. And I'm gonna open up with Julian Assange, as everybody knows. It's called Day X. Monday and Tuesday. There's court dates in London, and the I believe it's the final chance for Assange not to be extradited to the United States, even though the UK courts have already ruled that US prisons are amount to cruel and unusual punishment, so they won't extradite Assange to the US based off that, and they also don't believe he can get a fair trial here. But of course, the United States keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and now there's one last court date. So I don't know what happens if the British government still rules against the U.S. Whether that's it, and that he can finally go back home, or the U.S. is going to keep pushing this. I don't know. We'll see. But as of now, you can see here it says February 20th and 21st. So this is a number to the White House, sorry, to the Capitol switchboard and in the Senate in the House. 202-224-3121. So that's a general message. You can just leave a message there. It's not like you actually have to speak to anybody because nobody picks up this number. It's just a voicemail number. Or you can look up your own senators or congressperson and call them directly. a lot of times you'll get a voicemail too. Some very rarely you'll get a person actually picking up the phone. So if you look up your own senators or Congress people, whatever. Today I know today's Friday night, and no one's gonna be there until Monday. But still, I mean, leaving voicemails help. Eventually you pester them enough, they may do something. So, yep. So that's that. Very important. Hello, gamer. Thanks for joining us tonight. Yeah, I mean that's the situation. Is hope. I hope that there's something being done.
it
That's.
it's such a, I don't know. Like I said to you before we went live,
Mhm.
I wish that I was somewhat that I could be optimistic. I just feel like this is just watching slow-mo execution. I mean, that's what it feels like, where it's such a project of cruelty, and the cruelty seems to be the point. Um, like a scarecrow example, like a warning to others.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know. I it seems very I love to see, obviously, that people care about it. We need to care about it, of course. Um, at the same time, it can just feel very demoralizing, even just see like holding a sign, making a phone call. It's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It feels like a very empty calorie gesture that's more like something to make us feel better rather than like that it's going to do anything. But I would love to be wrong about that. I really would. So
Yeah.
I you know, because I've done the retweeting and the voicemail and it's, yeah, because it's the right thing to do, and I certainly appreciate that. But is it effective? Like, this is, I don't know. I don't think they're swayed at all by public consensus.
Well, probably not, but still, I mean, ultimately we have to. Some. This is all really we can do. And
Yeah,
protest outside. There's already people planning to be outside the courthouse in London,
and they should.
and there's media people, and that have been approved to cover it inside. I think Richard Medhurst is one of them, and
Oh,
a
good.
couple of others. That have actually been given press passes. So not many press has been given passes to these hearings. So we'll see. But there's going to be protesters outside. I know that. I mean, there's already planned protests and stuff. So yeah. So I'm hoping. I mean, something has to be done. Hopefully, Assange will hope against hope. That's all we can do because at this point, it isn't like we can actually do much.
No.
Uh, all right. So thank you. So this is Navalny. Apparently, he passed away today in prison, in Russian prison. Of course, everybody is blaming Putin for this, even though he had no reason to be afraid of him because according to Russian polling, he's polling around 5%.
I'm waiting for
So,
them to blame Tucker.
oh yeah, I mean, yeah, Alexei Navalny, the West's former darling, organizes marches with gangs of neo-Nazi extremists. So this is like I'm not sure. There's music to this? I don't think so. Should be fine.
Моим сторонникам, которые
Yeah,
удивлены, я хочу сказать...
well, I mean, the subtitles are there. I'm not sure. Well, we're kind
They
of.
had Biden singing his praises today, and basically just wanting to use this as an excuse for, like, was it like $93 billion more of foreign aid?
Well, yeah, I mean, This is an excuse for escalation. All of Washington is trying to blame Putin for this.
Oh
There's no
yeah,
investigation. There's
no.
no nothing. It's just completely. it's on Vladimir Putin, even though he had no reason to kill him because he was a low level political opponent of his. It wasn't like he was a new threat to Putin. He wasn't.
It doesn't matter. It's one of those um, poetic truths, right? This is going to be true because they need it to be true. Has to be
Yeah.
Putin's fault because that's what I mean. That's it is because they say it is, and
Yeah.
we're told that it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's always going to be Putin's fault, like, ugh, because it's convenient towards the narrative. It's like, oh yeah, Putin kills his political opponents, even though he had no reason to do so. Because
And
also,
something obviously too, like the U.S. That good thing we don't do that.
yeah, we don't kill our political opponents, or at least the government's political
Never.
opponents. Never, nope, we would never do that, except when we do and stuff. Jeez. Yeah, I mean he's allegedly he was tied to Nazis. I mean, there's no surprise there. I mean, the U.S. loves. Oops, what am I doing? Oh, here we go. I'm lost myself for a second, but yeah, the U.S. loves Nazis, especially when they're against Putin. Look at
Mhm.
Ukraine. Look at Ukraine again. I mean, they completely in love with with those Nazis because they fight Putin.
Oh, remember in wasn't it Canada where they like gave a standing ovation? Remember
Yeah,
that?
yeah, to the Nazis. The Nazi that was there, yeah, they gave a standing ovation to him, which is hilarious because then they talk about how Putin's a Nazi. Oh yeah, he's a Nazi. Oh, I mean, we actually cheered a Nazi in our parliament. Oh,
Well, the meaning, right? The term, um, kind of it's meaningless now. Like you've watered this down so grotesquely that like real actual Nazis by the definition um are basically friends to the West, and anyone that disagrees or I don't know doesn't think men can get pregnant, like they're the real Nazis. You know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, it's like really. I mean, it's. I responded to a few of these DC politicians like, oh, Navalny was a great hero and he did this and he did that and Putin's guilty. We must do something about it. And that's multiple politicians. It's not just Biden. It's both Democrats and Republicans for the most part. They're all lock in step with each other.
They don't
Mm,
call it uniparty for nothing, right?
no, definitely not. I mean, we're definitely in like a uniparty. They run it all. It's so yeah. I mean, Navalny is dead. Allegedly, Putin did it. So I'm like, oh, okay, he did it. So even if why would he do it? He had no reason to do it. He's already in prison for crimes that he committed, and he was no threat being in prison. So why kill him? And we don't even know whether he was murdered. He could have died of natural causes or suicide or deletion. I mean, I can't use that word on YouTube, even though I forget. And he could have died any other way, number of ways. Now he couldn't. It doesn't necessarily mean that he was killed.
No, it's a declared truth.
Yeah.
Case
Oh.
closed. Don't ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask questions, you're problematic. You
Yeah.
hate democracy.
Yeah, don't question the American government. So, yeah, if you haven't already, guys, please give me a like and subscribe because that's very important for the growth of my channel. So, and the INN channel too. So, yeah, now let's talk about our Fani Willis. Our Fani Willis. That made no sense. Fani Willis. I mean, let's try it like that because this is not good for her. I mean, she's now being questioned. There's hearings against her, possibly to disqualify her from prosecuting Donald Trump, which means that the case will pretty much die at that point because who's going to want to prosecute him? Because she was the one who started this. She was the one who arrested him. She was the one who had him take his mugshot. all that stuff. I mean, if she's gone, who would prosecute him? The case again, I don't know, but I don't live in Georgia, but my guess is it would go to the Georgia Attorney General's office. And quite frankly, I don't know what they have any desire to for this case because they didn't prosecute him. It took some small time district attorney in Fulton County to do it. So allegedly, if she's gone, the Georgia Attorney General might not even do anything. It's like, oh, can you give us time, Your Honor, to look at the case, and it'll be delayed indefinitely if she's just
Have you watched any of the trial?
yeah the hearings. Yeah, I have
Mhm.
clips and I have some clips and I've watched some of it, but there's a bunch of clips that I clipped out or other people clipped out and I saved. But first, I wanted to start with this clip because I think it's hilarious. Let's see. Why is it not popping up? Here we go. It's kind of small still. So this is back in 2020 when she was running for office. Fani Willis was asked why the people of Fulton County should support her district attorney. Because they deserve a DA that won't have sex with his employees. Because they deserve a DA that won't put money in their own pockets. This is where when she was running for office. And as we all know, this is exactly what she did. I'm going to play this clip. It's exactly what she did.
Because they deserve a DA that won't have sex with his employees. Because they deserve a DA that won't put money in their own pocket when it should go to benefit children. Because we deserve better.
Yeah, and you proceed to have sex with your subordinate, and you proceed to take money and put it in your own pocket. So exactly what she said that she wouldn't do, she did. Standard politician.
And it's funny, right? Because now all that changed is the spin, right? So now it's not that she had sex with her employee. It's that well, professional women are entitled to a private life, and if you don't think they are, then you're a misogynist. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, we're just gonna give your same behavior that you're criticizing, a different marketing campaign. And then suddenly it's like a slay queen, female empowerment, girl boss thing. You're not entitled to know. So it drips of hypocrisy, of course.
Well, yeah, I mean that's it. It's like just, and I've seen throughout the day liberals running their mouths about what a great girl, what a great strong black woman Fani Willis is, and what a great she's done a great job in these hearings. Even though if you actually watched it or some of the clips, you'll see that she embarrassed herself. I mean, she was disrespectful to the lawyers, to the judges. She was sitting like this at one point, like, yeah, what's
She
up?
was like a defiant child
That's
on the
exactly what she
stand.
was. Like, what's up? What?
It
Yeah, you lie.
like unchecked superiority. It was, I mean, it's a strategy, I think. But what I will say, because I know the sentiments you're talking about online where they're like, oh my God, she's slayed and she's schooling the attorney, questioning her and this, that, and the other. And all I can think is and I'm intentionally exaggerating for effect here, but I can think of few things more racist to Black people than holding up this woman as an example of Black excellence.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If this is your example of Black excellence, that is pretty damn disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, she has I was reading how she somehow, even though she spent her entire life in public service, worth $8 million, and she has millions of dollars in gold and millions of dollars in investments in Wall Street, somehow, but she's worth about $8 to $10 million. But
Mm-hmm.
somehow she's in public service her entire life. It's just, it's like Nancy Pelosi and all these politicians who became multimillionaires after getting elected, not before.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more the same. Uh, oh. So this is the first clip. This is Fani Willis, and Watch. Fani Willis says she doesn't sleep with her Fulton County employees and people who work under her. So this is her making excuses on why this other dude that she was screwing around with, it was not her employee but an agent. This is classic lawyerly talk, It's like, well, technically he wasn't an employee, he was just an agent, that I hired outside of the agency. So I'm not sleeping with my employees, even though actually that's what I'm doing. So classic lawyerly double talk from her.
I think that's the statement that I made. So if you want to quote me accurately.
So it's your position because Mr. Wade was not an employee, or it's your position he wasn't an employee, correct?
Mr. Wade is not an employee, and he will tell you that over and over again.
Just one moment, Judge. I'm sorry, the statement, just so I make sure I accurately quote you. What you said was you won't sleep with people who work under you. Do you not consider Mr. Wade working under you?
I consider Mr. Wade to be an agent.
An agent?
Yeah, right. An appointee is what I really think.
Well, I mean, he's technically not an employee. He's an agent. You see, so by definition, that means I'm not screwing her on an employee, even though that's exactly what she was doing.
Yeah, I mean, she's right. She is allegedly an attorney. So although I really struggle to understand how this woman passed the bar, so she's just using all of the tricks a lawyer would use. I mean,
that's double
she's
talk.
Caught, right? Like, she's totally caught, and she's just kind of flailing around, it seems, trying to kind of I don't know, it's like use this sarcasm and snark and these sort of mic drop kind of moments as a stand-in for an argument or intellect, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Jenny's right. These lawyers should be busy, but they're not. They're busy screwing around with each other. So they're definitely not. They're busy screwing around with each other instead of actually prosecuting Donald Trump, as that should be their jobs. So this is just the funny part. He's like, question: did he ever sleep at your house? Fani Willis asks, what is a house? What do you mean by sleep? This is literally what she asked. This is not even lawyerly double talk. This part is dumb.
And where when did he come to, I guess, the condo? I'm not sure what you called it, condo apartment. Would he come and stay at that condo or visit you there? I'm sorry, visit you there.
What condo, what apartment? I want to be clear.
So not your house.
How many condos or houses you have? That's first of all. Like, which house? I want to make it clear which condo and which house. So, like, how many houses do you have, or condos?
I know you classified one as house and one as condo, so I'm trying to use those terms.
So there's been more. See, what you don't understand is because of this case, I got to move. And so
Ms. Merchant, if you could ask a more precise question.
Oh, because of this case, I got to move all the time. What? I mean, you're scared of Trump supporters? What happened to the big, tough, prosecutor? Ain't scared of nobody. Turns out, no, I'm moving around constantly out of all my 10 houses and condos. I'm exaggerating. I don't know how many houses she has, but that's what it seems like, she's claiming.
Yes, please give me the time period.
Mr. Wade visits you at the place you laid your head.
When?
Has he ever visited you at the place you laid your head?
So let's be clear, because you lied.
She won't answer the question. Has he ever visited you where you lay your head? In other words, wherever you're sleeping at, has he visited you there? And she still won't answer the question. She's like, I want to make it clear, but this is like lawyerly double talk, but dumber.
Lied in this. Let me tell you which one you lied in. Right here. I think you lied right here. No. This is the truth, Judge. And
this is where she melts down here.
Like,
it is a lie. It is a lie.
Ms. Will? Mr. Sena, thank you. We're going to take 5 minutes. Be back in 5.
The judge protected her there. Like, we're going to take 5 minutes because obviously she's losing.
The judge has actually had a couple of moments where I feel like he's sort of running interference for her. And I think, what does it say? He told her that she should just text her. She's a dumb hoe. Well, I mean, in fairness, that clip with the sandwich I had put on Twitter, I think I just quote tweeted that and said, well, damn, I hope she at least made him a sandwich. So,
Oh, that's not what a queen does. Nope. I mean, she just melted down there. And it is, as you said, it seemed like the judge was kind of covering for her.
and I
Because
have
as
to
soon as
wonder, like, if it's something where we've created such this crazy racialized based fear system in our culture that it's like, are they actually afraid that if they push too far, too hard to something, it's like, well, then it's just going to be, oh, everything's just, this whole thing is racist. There, you know what I mean? It's like the judge is going to be accused of racism. The lawyers are going to be accused of racism, because that's the kind of system we've really set up. You cannot criticize, you cannot find fault, you cannot scrutinize if within certain skin color. I mean, again, I go back to the fact that they want to hold up this woman as an example of Black excellence. That's so insulting. So I just wonder, like, are they afraid that it's like, well, hold on, we can only go so far, because then we're going to be ruined because we're going to be racist.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what liberals are worried about. Liberals have been covering for her ever since the start of this thing. Liberals have been covering up for her and all this other, I mean, now this clip is just Fani Willis throwing her lover under the bus. Fani Willis suddenly accuses her secret lover, Nathan Wade, who she had an affair with for years, of being a misogynist. And this is her quote. I'm going to play the clip. I'm not going to read it, but so this is a minute long. So yeah, she literally just throws him all the way under the bus. Like, apparently she just smeared him as a misogynist, even though he was screwing around with him for years. So she should have known this. Why is she sleeping with a misogynist? That's my question. If she knew this, this is allegedly true.
We're also taking her word.
Yeah. I mean, of course, we're assuming she's telling the truth, which she probably isn't. But let's say, assuming she's telling the truth, why would she stay with him for so long? Which is why it makes no sense. And if a story makes no sense, it's usually not true.
And did the forthcoming indictment have anything to do with that?
Ooh.
Or was it just a coincidence?
Mr. Let's go on and have the conversation.
I'm just asking you whether or not
She won't answer the question again.
it was a coincidence.
Had absolutely nothing to do with this. It's interesting that we're here about this money. Mr. Wade is used to women that, as he told me one time, the only thing a woman can do for him is make him a sandwich. We would have brutal arguments about the fact that I am your equal. I don't need anything from a man. A man is not a plan. A man is a companion. And so there was tension always in our relationship, which is why I would give him his money back. I don't need anybody to foot my bills. The only man who's ever foot my bills completely is my daddy.
Is there anything else you would like to add to that?
No.
Sure.
But I'm sure we'll talk about it further.
No, we're not going to talk about it further.
All right, no back and forth. Let's stay down. Next question.
Look at how arrogant she is there. Like, she's sitting like this. It's like, oh yeah, I nailed it, didn't I? Except that you embarrass yourself there in that answer.
And this is what I'm talking about. It's like, so, okay, so she is simultaneously this, like, slay queen, I don't need a man, strong, independent woman feminist. And at the same time, she's this eternal victim because she was with this guy and he said I was only good for making him a sandwich. I mean, it's like, bitch, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah, she's ridiculous, they're like, oh yeah, I mean, he doesn't pay my bills except that when he takes me on vacation and stuff, and she always pays him back in cash, by the way. That's another controversy because
Did you see the testimony of her father today?
I have a couple of clips of that which I'll play in a minute, but that man's not well. I mean, he was
that
all over
went
the place.
off the damn, like,
Yeah.
This whole thing is the most cluster B bullshit I've ever seen, like all the way around. This is
Yeah.
absolutely psychotic. But
Yeah.
he was a special kind of crazy. And all I could think watching him is like, okay, the apple does not fall far from the tree, sadly. Clearly, this is like the same type of thing. He was going off on weird tangents. He talked about how like all like again they all get so racist, and it's like we're not supposed to say anything, but he talked about how it's a black thing to have just hordes of cash in your house. Like it was very
Yeah.
strange. And then did you catch his weird thing about COVID?
Yeah, I have that clip and I'm playing in a minute. But he claimed that he knew about COVID in 2019. So somehow he had secret government classified documents because only the government knew about COVID in 2019. They were figuring some sort of pandemic was coming, and
And
of course nothing was done.
my thing when I watched that this morning, I was like, hold on. I'm sorry. If I were that lawyer, shouldn't he be like, okay, wait,
Mhm.
I have some follow-up questions. But he just like let that go. It was like, oh, or she or whoever it was, like,
Uh-huh.
oh, you knew about COVID. Oh, okay. So sorry. We'll move on.
Yeah, that was so out there that I think the lawyer didn't even know how to respond. So it was like, okay, let's just move on from that one because that was just ridiculously over the top. Like, whoa, like you knew about that before the government did. All right, so this is funny. It's another funny one. Fani Willis does not know where Belize is at, what continent it was. So that's it. I'm gonna play. I'm not gonna read it because her way she said it was just. So let's.
Did you and Mr.
She's mad at the lawyer for embarrassing her too because she didn't know where Belize was at. So which continent it was on. So let's watch.
Did you and Mr. Wade go to New York?
I've gone to New York. I've gone to New York twice since I've been district attorney. I'm trying to think if it's 2 or 3 times. I went to do a domestic violence thing there for sure, and I was honored, and I went to the Apollo there. Those are the only 2 trips that come to mind. I went. He was not with me.
You also said that he was a world traveler and had been on many of the continents.
I've been to 6.
Have you been on any of those continents with him
Yeah.
besides this one?
Where's Belize? What continent? I'm not being funny. I don't know.
Let's say, with the
I've been
exception
to
of
Belize with him. I've been to the Bahamas with him. I've been with Aruba with him. Don't embarrass me. I'm not sure what continents those are on. Whatever continents those are, that's where I've been. I'm sure if I gave it some thought, I would tell you. But whatever continents those are, that I've been to those locations, sir.
but not Australia or any other continents.
I don't even want to go to Australia. I do know he took a trip in December to Australia. I have no idea, I don't know anything about that.
I don't know where Belize is at. Please don't embarrass me. I think you embarrassed yourself because you just admitted you don't know where Belize is at, and you went there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just the key. She was a married man. It's a whole other thing. I mean, this guy's married, and this is why it came out because ultimately his wife filed for divorce, and that's when all this started coming out that they were screwing around for years. You gonna say something or no?
No, I'm just struggling to even like assimilate all this because it's so fucking nuts.
Yeah.
It's so corrupt. It's so nuts. And the trial is just such a clown show. It's such a again,
Yeah.
it looks like something you would have seen back in the day on like SNL, right? Except
Yeah, it's a
they're
parody.
serious.
It would have been an SNL parody 30 years ago. Now it's like real life. We're living it.
Mm-hmm.
We're living it. These lawyers and elites talking about how, oh, I don't know where Belize is at, which continent. Please don't embarrass me about that. Don't ask me any more questions about which continent that is because I don't know, unfortunately, even though I have a bachelor's degree and went to law school. But yeah, I don't know anything about, which continent Belize is on. It's
And according to, CNN and MSN and all of those outlets, we're supposed to watch all these hearings and see the persecution of a strong Black woman. That is what they are telling you that you're seeing.
yeah, you're seeing a strong Black woman, slay queen, whatever word you want to use. She's being persecuted because that's her personal life. That she's, even though she's fucking around with a married man, so that's a personal life. Like we shouldn't care about that. Yeah, except for the fact that there's money involved.
There's money involved, there's corruption
Hmm.
involved, but
She hired,
ignore.
she hired this lawyer, Nathan Wade, who had no experience prosecuting major crimes like this. None. The only thing he prosecuted was traffic law. He worked in traffic law for a bit, and she hired him and paid him $750,000 to prosecute this case. And the other two lawyers only got paid 75 or getting paid 75. So she paid her lover. She gave her lover a couple extra zeros there in order for him to prosecute this case, compared to the other lawyers in this case. So what the hell's going on there? Let's see. This clip is, again, this is her admitting to a crime. When I took out a large amount of money on my first campaign, I kept some of the cash of that. This is literally what she admitted to on the stand.
Whole
Under
life,
oath.
when I took out a large amount of money on my first campaign, I kept some of the cash of that. Like, to tell you, I just have cash in my house. I don't have as much today.
She just admitted to a felony there. You cannot take campaign cash and keep it and put it in your pocket or your bank or your personal bank account to pay your bills. That's a FEC violation 101 there. Like, either you have to keep the money in the account and then use it for another campaign, or you have to donate it to another politician, or you have to. Go
Why
ahead.
isn't that then right there seen as a confession under oath on the stand?
Good question. I mean, it should be. She should be, at the very least, investigated for that, because the FEC should be coming in and saying, "You just admitted to a crime," because she kept some of the cash, as she admitted. As she admitted to keeping some of this money, and some campaign contributions. Isn't like she kept campaign contributions, which is highly illegal according to campaign finance law. She can't do that.
Right, it's illegal, it's corrupt, and yet we're having this debate about her integrity and her ability to, remain in her profession and to be a respected prosecutor. That's what I'm saying. It's like the most disturbing thing about the narrative that's created around this is that, like, we're expected to believe it. Like, we're expected to think this is normal, and we're expected to just go, oh yeah, that makes sense.
As Mr. Perfect is Perfect says, so she's rich, so even if she made it to a felony, she still won't go to jail. Well, there is a two-tier justice system, no doubt. So, yeah, she probably won't go to jail. So now let's get to her daddy. This is the first clip, that I have. Your Honor, I'm not trying to be racist. It's a black thing. This is a whole why black people have a bunch of cash in their house. So, this man is either he's not well mentally, he's not all there, or he's just trolling. I don't know, because it seems like throughout his testimony, it was just nuts.
When your daughter moved or left the house that she owned, did she say anything to you about having a large savings of cash?
Oh, no, no. See, maybe, excuse me, and Your Honor, I'm not trying to be racist, okay? But it's a black thing, okay? I was trained, and most black folks, they hide cash or they keep cash. And I trained, you always keep some cash, because I've been places, and just because of the color of my skin, for example, I took a fellowship at Harvard when my daughter was just a if I might, Your Honor, if I might, when I was just, she was just, maybe 3 years old. And I remember going to a restaurant in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I had a American Express credit card and maybe a Visa or whatever. And I had a lot of what they call traveler's checks. I don't even know if they still have traveler's checks, but
No, they don't.
traveler's checks. And there was a sign said, with the credit card. For whatever reasons, the man would not take my American Express credit card. So I pulled out my Visa card, and he wouldn't take my Visa card. So then I pulled out my traveler's checks. He said, we don't take checks. Now, these were traveler's checks. This was money. I had a $10 bill. I'll never forget this as long as I live. And he said, the bill for my wife at the time, Fani's mother, Fani, and myself was like $9.95, and I had a $10 bill. That was all that. And I always remember that. But even before that, I've always kept cash, and I've told my daughter, you keep 6 months worth of cash always. For example, I had 3 safes in my house. I put some of my clients' stuff there too, things I didn't want other lawyers to be, because you're always in a firm, and I knew that there were special conditions. So some of my clients' things I would bring home, put them in the safe. But I've always kept safes. And as a matter of fact, I gave my daughter her first cash box and told her always.
He went on a tangent there, which I didn't understand, but the first minute is what mattered there.
So there's so much in this clip. But my first question is, what type of regular person have 6 months worth of cash just hanging out in their house?
Yeah,
He said 6 months.
Yeah,
Just
it's absurd.
lift up your mattress, Angel. What do you have under there? What do you have? Is a bunch of cash?
It's just crap. It's not cash. I wish it was.
And
Yeah.
look, that story about the restaurant, all I can do is speculate. I don't know, but to me, I feel like, did that happen? I don't know.
I tend
Literally,
to.
no, we won't take your credit card for no reason whatsoever. He implied kind of because of his skin color, but he didn't outright say it. I don't know.
Yeah,
It would have been more believable if he was like, they wouldn't serve us, but we're expected to believe that they served him, he ate their food, so they gave resources, right? And then they're like, no, we won't take your money to pay for it. That seems a little odd.
Yeah, first they wouldn't take his visa, and then they wouldn't take his traveler's check.
Right.
Even though
but they had no problem feeding him, apparently.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And we're supposed to think this is racially motivated. It's like, if it was racially motivated, they probably wouldn't have served you and given you food.
Yeah,
Typically, you wouldn't see the racism come where we will not take your money, but we were fine with feeding you.
Nope. It just doesn't. Again, if the story makes no sense, it's probably not true. Anyways, I'm going to say this: the only people who keep a bunch of cash in their house are drug dealers. I'm not suggesting they were drug dealers, but those are the only people who would keep a bunch of cash in their house. And he claims it's a black thing. It's really not. I grew up around black people. I've never seen any of them have to keep a bunch of cash in their house. That's the whole story doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's just again, it's so racist, and it's just so.
Even he knows that.
Because he said, he had to preface it.
He said, Your Honor, I'm not trying to be racist here. Even he knew it was racist. You know what he was saying. Anything to protect your daughter.
Spend any time?
I get it, but even that's ridiculous. It's like, you got to protect your daughter. I understand that, but that's even going too far. This is his claim that he knew about COVID before everybody else did, apparently. So let's watch this. This is just another funny one.
Did you spend any time in 2019 in California?
No, and the reason I didn't is that when I first came here, the answer is no, I did not. What happened was COVID. Once COVID hit, I was just paralyzed. I couldn't go any place. I couldn't go anything. I mean, I'm a theater buff. I used to go to theater at least once a week. But when COVID hit, I just couldn't. I couldn't go to the dentist, which I need to do. Or, it was just a thing. So I was just stuck. I was just stuck there.
I may be wrong, but I believe COVID hit in 2020. So I was asking about 2019. In 2019, did you spend any time in California?
Before COVID was even here in the United States, remember I lived in South Africa and I've traveled the world. I knew COVID was coming before. I knew COVID was around before. They may have announced it in 20, but in fact, I knew about it and I knew what was happening in 19.
Okay, so let's walk through 2019 then.
See, she just moves on instead of like, well, I knew about it because I traveled the world. But the only people who might have known about it are the United States government and the Chinese because it started in China.
It's a very it's at best it's a weird thing to say. And at worst, it's sort of an alarming, like, I have some follow-up questions kind of thing to say.
Yeah, even though nothing to do with anything, but if I'm the lawyer there, I think that might have been Trump's lawyer questioning him there. If I were his attorney, I would at the very least ask the follow-up, like, where did you hear about COVID in 2019? Because the first time I heard about it was January of 20 when, and actually I shouldn't because this is YouTube and I might violate their policy, but I'm not going to talk much about that. I was going to say something, but it's like, let me not say that part. But yeah, I mean, first time I heard about it was in 20 and not 19, early 20. So that's why somehow if he knew about it, either he's lying or he knew about it, and I would ask a follow-up question or two.
Yeah, it was so bizarre.
This is another clip that I found. This is her appearance on Rachel Maddow
I haven't seen this actually. Oh God.
Her father claimed I don't have that clip, but he claimed in his testimony that around 5 a.m. on February 3rd, 2021, a group of violent racists surrounded their house and threatened their lives. They said the incident was so bad, Fani moved almost immediately. If this is true, you think she would have mentioned it 9 days later on MSNBC when asked about the type of threat she was getting. Yeah, this is a big one that she allegedly she was threatened.
Just have to ask.
Allegedly, she was threatened. There were racists that surrounded her house, allegedly, and she moved immediately. But how come she didn't mention it here when Rachel Maddow asked her 9 days later? I'm sure she would. No way she forgot in 9 days. Let me play the clip.
I just have to ask if you are, obviously you are a law enforcement professional and you have been doing this for more than 2 decades and 19 years as a prosecutor, and you obviously stand on firm ground and know what you're doing. But I have to ask if it has crossed your mind, if you are worried about your own safety and that of your staff, if opening this investigation could make you targets.
Oh, absolutely. Since we've opened this, my security has doubled. We've gotten a lot of comments. Interestingly enough, the comments are always racist. And it's really just a waste of time and foolishness. It's not going to stop me from doing my job. And I don't think that it's an insult to remind me that I'm a Black woman. So it is a waste of their time. But we do understand that some people are unstable. Some people think the nerve of me to actually do my job. But I took an oath. I made a commitment to the citizens in my community, and I'm going to do my job.
Fani Willis, the district attorney of Fulton County.
Again, why did she mention that there? I mean, that would be, if that story is true, that's something I would mention on Rachel Maddow. But
yeah, I'm going to go with because it didn't happen.
Oh, no, it didn't. But that's something that would be important to mention. Oh, yeah, by the way, my house was surrounded by a bunch of violent white racists. And, they were yelling out racial epithets, and they were calling me the N word or whatever they were saying at that time, and she immediately moved. So
Yeah.
did she?
Also, a story like that is like porn for Rachel Maddow. Okay, so if you were going, if there was ever a time to tell that story, you need to rally, more. You tell it to Rachel Maddow, because she's probably going to have a borderline sexual reaction to a story like that, right?
She would
That
love
just
a story like that.
that just affirms her entire world view. So that's why I don't think it happened, because it's like, come on, you would tell that story, and
100%.
you would look very distraught, but you're still a strong woman and a survivor. You do the whole thing, like, so that's why I don't think it happened.
No, I mean, that's something she would have mentioned. Absolutely. There's no way in hell she would have just ignored that. Like, oh yeah, let me not tell Rachel Maddow about this that allegedly happened with evil white racists and and they all
They surrounded the house at 5 a.m. It was terrible. She feared for her life. And she's like, oh, did I forget to mention that? Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's freaking just unbelievable how these people lie. They just straight up lie. Like, oh yeah, I mean, it's very important to tell the truth, and they're testifying and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's just insane. Like,
I do feel like, though, they sort of I mean, it's a damning thing to say, but I feel like they honestly believe at this point that they have a license to lie, in order to aid their larger political projects, right? Whether that's prosecuting Trump, whether that's, getting so-and-so off the ballot, whether that's censorship, whether that's whatever it is. I do feel like they feel that lying is it's a completely fine strategy in order for the greater good, and in how they see that to be, the greater good according to them.
yeah, I mean that's just too. I mean, Fani Willis, and this is my speculation. I have no evidence for this, but it seems like to me that she wanted to make a career in prosecuting Trump, no matter
Oh,
whether he was.
100%,
If
100%.
she wanted to make her career in prosecuting Trump. And when she got caught doing this, she thought in her head, don't worry about it, because all these liberals will defend me no matter what. And there's no way that I actually be held accountable. It doesn't matter, because I, as Fani Willis, I had the balls to go after Donald Trump. So how dare you question me on
You're
my
100%.
affairs, on my.
You're 100% correct.
There's no way. I mean, she's shocked that that's her attitude, our testimony. That she can't believe she's being questioned. Like Donald Trump is like, I'm going after Donald Trump though. I have the
Right.
best case in her head, even though her case is ridiculous. But in her head, it's like I have the best case. So by definition, why are you going after me? Because if she's disqualified, this case is pretty much done. I don't see anybody else picking it up unless the best case scenario for them is like the Georgia Attorney General is like, give us time to figure out whether it's the case here or not, and then we'll go. But we may proceed, we may not. It might take a year. By then, Trump most likely be president, and the whole thing is moot. But yeah, I mean, there's if she's disqualified, this case is done. Jack Smith case is pretty much done too, because the Supreme Court ruled that they're not going to hear the case on presidential immunity until like 6 months from now. And even so, that March trial date is out the window. So that case is gone too. So all they have left is the New York cases, the civil cases, which are civil. He's not going to jail for those. He just convicted and has to pay a bunch of money, which Trump will never pay because he doesn't pay his debts. So that's pointless. So they have.
Yeah. No, they have nothing. I mean, there's so much desperation. That's really all there is they are just drowning in very, I don't know, it's just everything they do reeks of utter desperation and fear, and they're clearly like they're losing the narrative, they're losing their cases. They struggle to understand why the Dems are losing the Black vote, they're losing the Latino vote, they're losing young men. They just they cannot comprehend. So then it's like, okay, well, how do we fuck all these people? How do we just impose our will? Because fuck all of us, right? They don't care.
Yeah, I mean it's unbelievable just how these people. I mean, I can't wrap my mind around just the corruption. I mean, and Matt, here's the thing they're not counting on. If Trump becomes president, you think in his first term he didn't really go after his political opponents.
No,
I mean, even though he said Hillary Clinton, I'll put you in jail. He never did anything. Put
he
her in
didn't do
jail.
anything to her.
Now, if he gets back in the White House, he's definitely going after his political opponents now, and he'd be justified because look what they did to him.
Well, and that's so much of their whole thing, right? Where they're saying, oh, if Trump gets in office, like he's gonna jail all these people. He's gonna do, and they try to make it out like he's talking about ordinary average citizens when really no, he's talking about the political class if he's talking about anybody. And it's like, okay, so you all are fearing that Trump is going to do to you what you're doing to him. That's essentially all it is.
Yeah, they're scared to death because now that they played, this is a desperation card. All these cases, all of these lawsuits, it's a desperation card because they have nothing else. So what are they going to do? They're hoping to God one of these cases somehow gets him convicted, and even if it does, he probably.
I don't think it would. Here's the thing that I've kind of always said, and I know many other people share this sentiment. Like, if he got thrown in jail before the election and was like running from prison, I'm fucking voting for him. I will vote for the candidate that's running from prison.
And it's happened before.
Sheer principle, okay? So I don't even think a conviction is going to do what they think it's going to do.
It isn't, because he can still run for president even though he's in prison.
Yes.
It's happened before in American history.
It'll be like the Eugene Debs thing.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to mention Eugene. He ran for president in prison. He got over 1 million votes. Ultimately, he didn't win, but he got over 1 million votes, which was a big deal at the time. It was like, oh my God, 1 million people voted for this guy, even though he's in prison. I mean, it's it shocked the system. It's like, how did this guy get over 1 million votes even though he's in prison? It makes no sense. So it happened before, it'll happen again. Even if Trump ends up in jail, which he probably won't, I don't see that happening. But even if he ends up in house arrest, he can still run for president. All he has to do is he loves putting out videos on his social media, Truth Social.
Put out videos. You get on Twitter. You get on Instagram, like whatever.
You can still run.
Truth Social, wherever he is, and okay, yeah. Because the thing is, like, what is relatable about him, especially this time around. I was not at all a fan the first time around, but the political landscape is vastly different now than it was then.
Yeah.
But I think what's relatable to a lot of people is we see how authoritarian the government is getting, and we see what they're doing to Trump, and we can see with our own eyes that so much of it is complete and utter bullshit. And we know if they would do it to him, they will do it to any one of us. So you can imagine, and you feel yourself even daily just like being totally screwed over by the government, So it is a relatable thing.
Yeah, 100%. And I want to move on to the migrant crisis. I can't even talk right now because you sent me an interesting video earlier today, which I actually watched all of it, and I wish it was longer, that conversation, because
Mhm.
only 32 minutes, and it's like,
It was
man,
interesting though.
I wish that they would have gone longer with that. So I'm not gonna play the video. I'm gonna probably link it in the chat though,
Mhm.
because I only have like 35 minutes left. So this is
Mhm.
a video that you sent me earlier today. Legal immigration to U.S. border. Who's behind it and why? I've never heard of this Dr. Chris Martinson until you sent me this, and like, oh
I
wow. I
hadn't
mean,
heard of him either, but I do watch a fair amount of Peter Boghossian, so it was just his latest video.
yeah, yeah. I was like, I saw the entire video. I'm like, holy crap. I mean, the migrant, this quote unquote crisis, it looks like it's manufactured with all the evidence he
Mhm.
showed. And I went to his Substack where he actually, because he talks about these photos in Panama and how they had Chinese the Cantonese high whatever they're called, that language. And they're all over the place. I was like, no, like, there's no way. I mean, in Panama, why would the Chinese be there? But no, they're. Let me show you. Let me show you guys. Share this tab. This is the pictures he took. The doctor from Panama.
Oh wow! I actually didn't look at his Substack, so I'm seeing this for the first time. I just listened to the interview.
Yeah,
Wow.
and so this is the photos he took. Which I wanted to see because I wanted to see whether he was.
No, look,
He's not.
he's got receipts
Yeah,
for
these are the
real.
photos. Yeah. And this is the UN, because he talked about how the United Nations is involved in this
Mhm.
migrant crisis. So that's evidence there. Their vans are there. That's him with next to the Chinese notes there. But then there's this photo. The actual where they're sleeping. This is what he was talking about with all the how many numbers crossed through their camp throughout the year. 68,079. So 1884 in January. This is Spanish, but it's January. 3,125 in February. March 4,000. April 5,000. May 6,000. June 7,000. July 13,000. August 9,000. September 4,000. October 2,806. November 3,354. And December is kind of whited out, but it says 3,762 for a total of 68,079 migrants went through that camp alone. And that's not including any other camps in Panama. I mean, so these are, it looks like there's some Chinese males here and some other males. So yeah, he has the photos. I mean, it's true, this is happening, and it seems like it's happening at the oops, I think I may have closed that mistake. Yeah, I did. But yeah, it seems like it's happening at the UN's discretion, or the UN's, orders or something. Because throughout the interview, he's talking about the UN and they were, oh well, we need to what's the exact word he used? Equality or something like that. We need
It's there.
equity,
Yeah,
isn't it?
equity. It will bring equity to third world countries, and I believe what he talks about is because you're bringing in all of these people from impoverished nations that then sort of equalize a little bit of the wealth in the US. Granted, that's done by punishing the lowest tier of the US citizens, which is the working class, but we'll leave
Yeah.
that for a second. In theory, it brings the US down, and then those migrants working jobs will send money back home to their country, to their families, that then raise the wealth of those countries. And well, there's equity.
Yeah. So I put the video that you sent me in the chat. So if you guys want to check
It's a
it out
good
on your own time,
conversation.
yeah, it's 30 minutes long. It's not that long. So I think it should have been longer. But yeah, I mean, it's 30 minutes. So I put in the chat. You want to check it out in your own time because I recommend it. So thank you for sending me that.
Yeah, I
And
thought you might like that. And I think that it's an interesting thing because obviously, like, I've watched stuff about this issue, and that was a relatively new thing. And it's like, what it's looking like to me is that there is far more than one thing going on here, right? You've
Mm-hmm.
got many different things that are playing into this, and um you have powerful interests who don't necessarily even share all the same interests. They can want this for vastly different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a number of agendas at play and a number of different interests and factors that are going in
Mm-hmm.
to create this insanity.
Yeah, I mean it's too. Then there's this clip which Libs of TikTok found.
Mm.
A group of mostly Chinese military-age males wait to be released into the U.S. Once they enter, they will disperse throughout the country. So this is all mostly Chinese males here. These are military-age Chinese males. There's some females listed there too, but
Yeah.
Chinese, Chinese. They're wearing really nice clothes though, which is weird. Why would they be there?
Mm-hmm.
Which is something else the doctor talked about too when he went there.
Mm-hmm.
Chinese,
English?
no.
Yeah.
And
It's
then here's like I think Muslim males because they have the turban on unless they're
mhm.
Sikh. So I don't want to get confused here. So yeah, that's mostly Chinese military age males. And it seems like the Chinese are also involved in this too, for whatever reason. They
Yeah,
have
well, I think that in that interview, I think he talks about how with China, the way they're kind of selling it to these young Chinese males is almost like, hey, sense of adventure, this is going to be great. And they
yeah.
have these sort of promo advertisements that almost just make it look like a outward bound kind of adventure, you know?
Yeah, on their social media company. I don't know what it's called, but they have this separate social media in China. They're promoting this as some sort of adventure, like oh yeah, you can cross into the United States, and they'll give you a green card or whatever. They'll give you money. It's another thing which you'll bring up. I mean, free
Mhm.
money, and they'll give you anything. And in Panama, I think he discussed this too, where the path they have maps and they have bridges. They'll tell you exactly where to go and how to get across the border. Only thing is that they're telling him to go up through a mountain in
'Cause I think
Panama.
that's really the only option. Like, they can't necessarily just fly, like, they can't fly in. It's like, okay, you can do this, but it's like this horrible 30-mile uh trek that is so dangerous,
Mm.
not only because of the terrain, but because of the kind of people you're likely to encounter, that they actually provide you with a
Uh-huh.
rape kit when you
Yeah.
start the journey. They're like, you're probably gonna need this.
Yeah, you're probably gonna get raped. So here's a rape kit. The morning after pill is there. There's condoms. So here,
Mhm.
take this. I'm like, and then on top of that, they're going through a mountain, and
Yeah.
it's even though it's Panama, it's still 40 degrees, and these people are nowhere near prepared to go across a mountain. They're gonna die of hypothermia, or at the
Mhm.
very least get hypothermic and close to death. So even though, oh yeah, you'll be fine. It's Panama. It's warm. No, the higher you get in elevation, the colder it gets. Like the people don't
Mhm.
know that it's because it's like they're getting more. It's like It's like the Trail of Tears. People forcing Native Americans here to walk thousands of miles, and a lot
Yeah,
of them
yeah.
drop dead during the journey. According to the doctor, I think he said 10% of people die in that journey.
Mhm.
So it's a big number, people dying just in the mountains and stuff. So yeah, I want to get to your home state because a lot of you live in Massachusetts, right? You told me once.
Mhm.
Okay, let's get to your home state here because there's some coverage here. And if I actually shared the screen, that'd be nice.
Mm.
The migrant crisis is costing Massachusetts over $116 million. So this is the local CBS affiliate in Massachusetts.
And migrants living in homeless and migrants living in hotels and motels. So just how much money is the state paying for lodging? Records obtained by the I-Team show the state has 17 contracts for housing, totaling more than $116 million. Those contracts are only for fiscal year 2024 and end in June.
This is something that we have been asking the administration for information on for better part of a year, and have been stonewalled on the information. So I think for you to get it, I think it's really important.
In some cases, the hotels are collecting money from the state for 3 meals a day. $16 for breakfast, $17 for lunch, and $31 for dinner. That means $64 a day per person. The state's right to shelter law requires it provide families with refrigeration and basic cooking facilities. But some of the accommodations do not have those appliances, leaving the state to contract out for food and delivery.
$116 million is costing taxpayers in Massachusetts. And I can't really do much talking because I'm in New Jersey and we're starting to get migrants here too. And
well, you're going to get bleed over from New York, which is a screaming disaster.
Yeah, that's the New York thing, which is another thing. So yeah, we're gonna get some of the extra migrants, that don't fit in New York. They'll stay here because what's been happening is Texas is sending all the migrants to New York, but now New York changed their
New York
laws.
and Chicago and Denver now too.
New York is just changing their laws now, so they're getting around it by actually having the buses and planes land in Newark.
I saw that. They're like, let's just screw New Jersey.
Yeah, they're landing in Newark, so a lot of them are crossing into New York, but some of them are staying here, so they don't feel like crossing into New York. So here we go again, and right now I've started to see more homeless here in Trenton where I live, and a lot of them are Spanish speaking, and I'm like, oh shit, looks like we're getting migrants here too, and this isn't good because there's not much money in the city. I mean, there's 80,000 people here. We barely have enough money for us. Imagine all these migrants just start stopping here. And excuse me. And in Massachusetts, there's also maybe you can talk more about this, but I saw a report again from the local CBS affiliate in Boston. I didn't save it, but I should have. But the government is asking people to take in some of these migrants in their houses.
Yeah. And there are some people who have actually opted to do that. They are in in wealthy towns, which hey, I'll give credit. At least it's like, put your money where your mouth is. You want this because you feel like it's just the right thing to do. It's the progressive thing to do. It's the moral thing to do. Yeah. Okay, good. Go ahead. Open your home. Talk to me in 6 months, right? About where you're at. So yeah, there's some that are starting to do that, but more to the point is they are taking resources away from the poorest neighborhoods in Boston. They just gave away the Roxbury Community Center, which if you know Massachusetts, and specifically if you know Boston, Roxbury is a predominantly Black and brown neighborhood. It is predominantly a impoverished neighborhood, generally speaking. The rec center is a cornerstone for the community, for the youth of that community. That's where they go. That's where they go to stay out of trouble. That's where they go to do homework, learn a skill, get some exercise, whatever it is. they just shut it down to make it a migrant facility.
Yeah, I
And
heard about that too.
yeah, and they're saying like, oh, it'll just be a few weeks, that's a few months. Oh, it'll be back by summer. I'm not holding out hope. I think that's probably gone. And they did that because they were running out of room at Terminal E at Logan, which is where they were sleeping. Terminal E is just a bunch of people sleeping on the floor. And so they're just cramming them wherever. I'm no longer in the immediate Boston area. I lived there my entire life, but I'm no longer there. Moved out a little bit, but I will say even in the part of the state where I am, because Massachusetts isn't that big a state. I mean, it's only, even no matter how far you go, you're still only like a handful of hours really from Boston. But even where I am, we've already lost one hotel to become a migrant shelter, and I'm in a town that has 18,000 people right now. So we're getting spillover. We're getting it's the whole state. I just am afraid for what's going to happen.
Yeah, and there's no way that'll get any better because the Democrats are virtue signaling, and now they're getting called out on it, and now they have no choice because they can't admit their Republicans were wrong or were right. So now they're stuck, having their money where their mouth is.
Did you see this story? This one that you have pulled up, which is basically like slavery has become woke.
Yeah, I was going to bring this up next, but there's a small clip I saw that is 10 seconds, which is a white woman like talking about, oh, this Haitian woman cooks great meals for me, and she says something, I don't remember what she says exactly, but I was like, yeah, that's a modern day slavery.
My own personal chef.
Yeah, and she doesn't have, and she's not getting paid obviously because she's, staying there basically for free because, and now, oh yeah, it's like having my own personal chef, which I don't pay, and that's kind of like slavery. But nonetheless, it's great.
A little indentured servitude. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
This is the full report. It seems like so. I think this is the Haitian lady, But let me see.
It's a whole family.
The whole family's in that house.
It's her and her husband and their kid. But can you answer me a question about why the Haitian family is speaking Spanish?
Haiti is next to the Dominican Republic, which speaks Spanish. So there's a lot of bleed over.
I was expected to hear like French, Creole. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they speak French and Creole, but since they're right next to Dominican Republic, a lot of people go back and forth.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, which is why they're able to speak Spanish, even though they're from Haiti. Okay. And there's a whole other drama between Haiti and Dominican Republic. The Dominicans want to put up a big border wall to keep the Haitians out, which is very similar to what's going on here in the U.S. I saw a report and like, wow, it's very similar to what's going on here. So they want to keep the Haitians out, and the Haitians are like, no, we have the right to go in and out. It's a whole other drama.
Okay.
But that's for something else.
Thank you, because I was curious about that.
Yeah. Okay, let me play the full.
She felt bad, as any mother would. Now things are looking much brighter as they've been welcomed into Lisa Hillenbrand's Brookline apartment.
Tu niña es muy alegre ahora?
Sí, muy alegre.
Her little girl, the question was, the little girl happy now living in this place? She's like, yeah, she's happy living here.
Levanta en la mañana, se dice, ay, Lisa.
Oh. She says her daughter.
She wakes up in the morning, says, hi, Lisa.
is very happy. When she wakes up in the morning, she says, "Hi, Lisa," and everyone starts the day smiling.
It's a delight, and it's really fun having them. What I realized is there's so much prejudice against refugees, mostly because people don't know them.
Lisa says she feels like she has her own personal chef, as Wildande loves cooking.
Yeah.
¿Te gusta la ocupación?
Sí.
Do you like the occupation? She said yes.
In fact, her goal is to open up her own restaurant.
Quiero tener mi propio restaurante.
The couple has their
I
work
want to open my own restaurant.
permits, and they've been taking English classes.
Yo cualquier trabajo va a hacer para guardar mi dinero para hacer mi futuro.
They're open to work.
I work I work to save my money in order for my future.
Work anywhere to save money for their future. In the meantime, they're enjoying their time with Lisa, their new friend for life, and their daughter's new grandmother.
Se abuela mi niña.
They are hardworking. They want
My grandmother's Lisa. That's what the little girl says.
to learn. They want to be successful. And I feel great helping, and I get to understand the refugee crisis from the inside.
Lisa says she's so impressed by the number of people she's met right here at Brookline Town Hall meetings who've been stepping up and hosting families. She's hopeful more will do the same in the coming days and weeks. In Brookline, Erin Logan, NBC 10 Boston.
First
All
of
right,
all,
the need for more migrants.
let me just say that Lisa there is like, she was like on the verge of a spontaneous orgasm. Lisa,
Yeah.
okay, she's so impressed with herself, and she's like, look what a good leftist I am. Oh my God, worship me. So there's a whole payoff for Lisa in her like social circle. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
she's like, you're such a good white person. Look at you. You're doing the work. And look, that family, they might be like totally lovely. They looked lovely. I hope they have success. But when you focus on these specific stories and they do this whole weaponized empathy thing, it really misses the broader problem with what's going on. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
first of all, they've done a really good job at conflating, I think intentionally, immigrant and immigration with migration. These are two
Yeah.
very different things, but they're just like kind of sewing them together. So if you are opposed to this radical, no holds barred, boundless horde of migration, oh, well, then you hate immigrants. No, no, not even a little bit. We're talking about two very different things, but put them together, you conflate it, and then you can just denounce anyone that opposes this as a bigot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's basically what the argument is here. And why is it not, quite frankly, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's like, I can't even imagine just my city or my state asking me to start taking in a migrant here,
Well,
my little apartment.
do we get to a point, right, where, and I'm going to go off a catastrophe cliff intentionally because I just want to ask the question, like, do we get to a point where it goes from being a request to a demand, to an expectation, does that happen?
That's what some people are concerned about. And if you're in Massachusetts, that's kind of what I would be concerned about too. If there's some sort of government like demand, if there's some kind of government demand here.
Like, they're just doing the same kind of thing that all of these very woke cities are doing, where it's like, this is our shared responsibility, this is our common goal, this is no, fuck you, like, I didn't vote for this. It's like, no, you're just deciding like, no, this is what's going to make you a good person, so you cannot oppose this.
Yeah.
This is, it's like you're marketing it as this is the American thing to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This is as of February 8th, I believe, these numbers. This is from Massachusetts. Over 7,000 families are currently enrolled in shelters in Massachusetts. 32 new families enrolled in the last 24 hours. And this is the shelters around the state of Massachusetts. Oops.
Mm-hmm.
So Oh wait, let me. Can I make? Yeah, I did. Uh-huh. I mean, is there all these blue marks? I'm assuming have family shelters in there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just from February 8th. Those numbers. So it's probably more by now.
Yeah, well, there's no slowdown to this, and
Yeah, Yeah,
I don't.
Chicago. Go
Oh,
ahead. Go ahead. Yeah,
Chicago. No.
Chicago. I had Kid Cabello of Hardlands Media, lives in Chicago last week, and he briefly talked about how the migrant crisis over there, and it's like there are hotels being taken over in Chicago. There's parks. There's train stations, but they're just leaving. They're just putting these migrants all over the place in Chicago. So in New York too is happening.
Yeah, and the residents are absolutely furious, and these mayors
Mm-hmm.
are they will not stop because it's like I've had the frustration where it's like, oh my god, they're not listening to their constituents, how can they not stop? And then it's like, well, no, they are listening to their constituents. They're listening to their constituents that matter, which is the donor class who want
Mm-hmm.
this to continue for either utopian reasons, financial reasons, whatever it is. That no, they are listening to their constituents.
Yeah.
Brandon Johnson doesn't give a fuck about the impoverished people of Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't. All he care. I mean, it's virtue signaling. It's political. It's all political because they don't want to admit Republicans are right. So
Right.
I saw this earlier. Black Americans in Chicago finally waking up and realizing the Democratic Party is selling them out and replacing with illegal
Yeah,
immigration. These
they
are
need, they need
Chicago
to vote
residents that are
all these
very
people
angry.
out. They need to vote all these people out.
Black Chicago residents. This is a clip, real quick.
Man, they are finally waking up. Let me start. NPR reported from August this year to December this year, they will spend
Yeah, I muted it. Some music. I don't want to risk a strike, but you can
Hmm.
read it there. $252 million.
Look at that number.
17,000 migrants coming into the city of Chicago. That's just Chicago. You have 8,500 families. Hispanics have 3.5 children. I'm submitting to you in one generation. Just one. The black vote will be null and void. They have an additional 24,000 people on the voting rolls, along with the Hispanic population already here. They're playing chess, and you're all playing checkers. You are damning our youth, our next generation, to poverty by doing all these political speeches. One generation. Our vote will be null and void in all 6 of these sanctuary cities. And what are you going to
Mm-hmm.
do about that? Yeah, I mean, he mentioned Hispanics real quick, and I'm like, yeah, we do have a lot of kids. I mean, the average Hispanic has 3.5 kids, or three.
Mm-hmm.
Technically it's three. There's no half a kid out there, but you get my it's three. So yeah, I mean, Jimmy Dore says they want us fighting each other so the donor class can control the poors. Yep. Why aren't these white liberal women taking an American homeless? That's a great question, because we have plenty of homeless that are American citizens, and a lot of them are veterans, military
Mm-hmm.
veterans, who we promised. And I talked about this a few months ago with another guest that I had, and because we were talking about the VA and how underfunded that was, and that is, and how the fact that there's not enough money to take care of every single veteran that comes back from war.
No.
It seems like the U.S. government hopes. Well, I mean, hopefully most people die in war, so we don't have to take care of them. But they still have to take care of the family. That's part of the promise too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, there's plenty of homeless vets in this country, everywhere, not just in certain cities, everywhere, and the government does nothing about it. And then the city governments, Chicago, New York, L.A., Denver, Boston, they're taking care of the migrants.
Mm-hmm.
In New York, they're giving them free food stamps. Like, oh yeah, here's some
They
food
did.
stamps.
Yeah, Eric Adams did a
Hmm.
program. I believe it's $53 billion, to give them some amount on a reusable credit card
Yeah.
every month. Um, I mean, it's just like it feels like an act of warfare on the citizens, because it's like we have eyes, we can see what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is absolutely it's certainly a way to keep us fighting each other, but at the same time, like, well, yeah, it is gonna cause a fight because you're pitting people against each other for survival. That's gonna get bad.
Yeah, and it's like the Hunger Games. It's gonna get that
Mhm.
bad, and maybe it just. And this is the thing, what they're not realizing is somebody like Donald Trump can come in and say, "Oh yeah, we're gonna kick out all the migrants." Before, like back in 2016, that would have been outrageous policy proposals. Like,
Same.
and
Yeah, I would have
he said
thought
in
that.
2016, today, right now, that's not doesn't seem so outrageous. In fact, a lot of Americans might say, "Yeah, kick them out. We can't help all these people. Yeah,
Mhm.
grab them all and kick them out to their country of origin, whether it be China or." The Central America, Mexico, wherever they came from, just throw them all back to their home countries because that doesn't seem that outrageous today. When Trump might say that, it's like, yeah, kick them all out, which is why
Yeah.
he's tied with Biden and Latino voters, which never happened before.
No, it's wild.
He's only down by 3 with the African American vote, which again never has happened. And African Americans are loyal Democrats for ever since for decades. And now
Mhm.
they're like, no, I mean, enough's enough. Muslims, Biden lost Muslims in
Of
Michigan
course.
because
I
of
mean, they lose everybody. Like, I feel like the only people really that are sticking with the Dems are like it's every group that should be kind of really like marginalized. It's like they're like, so like all of the, like rapists, like abusers, completely mentally and emotionally dysregulated, any kind of deviant anything, they're like, yes, Democrats, and everybody else is so sick of this, regardless of your race, your sexual orientation, your ethnicity, your religion, like whatever it is. It's like we can see what's happening, you know?
yeah, and the UN's involved in this. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I've always now recently in the last few years, I've like, why are we list? Why is the UN even? If the United States pulls out of UN, the UN's done. I mean, we provide like 65% of their funding, and the rest of the world barely kicks in the other 35%. But yeah, I mean, it's they're actively trying to like kill off the United States. It seems like to in order to make it into Europe. It's like there's no border. It's
Yeah,
open border policy. You may
there's
not
no
the
border.
liberals may not like that, but it's an open border policy. What the
No,
administration's
it
doing.
really is. And clearly we see that like this is happening
Hmm.
in other Western countries as well. Like Ireland's having a huge issue, the UK is having a huge issue. It's not just the US, but it is the West.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's an open war against Western values in the UN. I mean, they hate the West for some reason, and China's involved in this too heavily. They're like they don't like Western values, whatever that term indicates. So yeah, the Chinese are definitely involved because a lot of Chinese males entering the U.S. through the Texas to the southern border, and I'm like, why are the Chinese here? I mean, they seem like they're all dressed nice and they have no reason to be here. They can
Yeah,
probably
well,
get a visa and fly in. They can.
it's like they said in that interview we were talking about, where he does mention that like you might think like, okay, are they just here to like maybe find a wife and start a family, because China does have like
The one
a
child
shortage of
policy,
women and
the
a
one China
complete,
policy.
yeah, complete overflow of men. So it's like, okay, is that the reason? That would be the most benign,
And
fine
most
reason.
likely, these men are criminals, just like Fidel Castro did in the '80s. It just you empty out his prisons and
Empty the
send him
prisons and
here.
the Yeah, where you
They're
said,
worse
okay,
criminals. Yeah.
yeah, you can serve your sentence and then fine, or you can go to the U.S. right now, but if you go, you can't come back.
And a lot of them went. It's like, yeah, I don't want to be in prison. So, and I get a green card, a citizenship. Yeah, I'm gone. Obviously. Yeah. Well, any final thoughts? I do have to wrap up because at 9 is INN News, so I have to
No,
be out of here.
I thank you so much for having me on. I guess my only final thought is that like it's almost baseball time.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to the season, and I can mention just real quick the last couple minutes here. Um, yeah, I mean, baseball's coming up, and the Yankees, their rotation is like, I mean, all they did was get, um, who was it? Some pitcher, but the big thing, the big fish, Juan Soto. I mean, he's going to be a huge part of that offense this season.
Yeah, I can tell you, like, as far as my beloved little team, I'm not particularly looking forward to the season in quite the same way, but just baseball in general,
Yeah.
yay. But I know I do not think my boys are going anywhere this year. But
Well,
you never know. It's always just fun to watch the games anyway.
Boston, the Red Sox are kind of still in rebuilding mode. It seems like
They're in and I wish they just kind of admit it. It's like, no, you're not making a run. You're rebuilding probably for the next few seasons. Like, that's cool. All right, but let's not pretend
yeah,
that
they're trying
we're in
to
it.
yeah, they're trying to do both at the same time. Oh yeah, let's rebuild, but let's contend a little bit too. Let's go.
So
Let's win 80.
I'll tell you one really, really quick thing before we
Yeah.
go. So I saw that I guess Netflix got this deal with the Red Sox where they're doing these sort of two documentaries where one of them that's going to be released later this year is like a whole multi-episode retrospective of 2004 because it's the 20th anniversary, obviously, and that's, for a Sox fan, the greatest season ever.
Yeah,
And so I'm
yeah.
like, oh my God, I can't wait. That's amazing. But then the other documentary series that they're doing is they're essentially following and filming the Red Sox from spring training this year and like every one of their home games and like a certain percentage of their away games. And it's supposed to be kind of this like compare and contrast between 2024 and 2004. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be so sad. This is a terrible idea.
Yeah, I don't know why the Red Sox agreed to that. And because again, 2004 was brutal for me because the Yankees are up 3-0. We're gonna go to the World Series again. Oh, David Ortiz figured out how to hit Mariano Rivera. That's what happened. He figured out how to hit him, and then we're screwed because Rivera only had one pitch, which was that cutter. The cut inside on the lefties.
Talk about an amazing pitcher. I mean, my God, he would like, even as a Sox fan, I loved watching him pitch. But even for the Yankees in 2004, yes, I know how it ended was tragic for you and glorious for me, but that whole season with those two teams was incredible.
Oh yeah, the games.
Those are some of the best games they've ever had.
Yeah, I mean, the Yankees were the Yankees and Red Sox were the two best teams in baseball that year, and whoever got out of the ALCS is going to be the champions because nobody's going to beat them. Who would St. Louis Cardinals going to beat the Yankees or the Red Sox? No, that wasn't going to happen.
Well, the thing is, like, the St. Louis that year was actually amazing, but I barely remember that World Series because it was just like it felt like the Cardinals didn't show up, like they just. But yeah,
they rolled over.
It was just over before it began. But
they rolled over and got swept.
So,
they got swept by Boston 4-0. I was like, okay, so they won like what? They beat the Yankees 4 in a row, and then they won 8 straight to end that postseason. I was like, and that Game 7 was a disaster for the Yankees. Real quick, I know I got to wrap up, but Game 7 was like what 12-3. I mean, it was over before it even started. Like
it was like there was a grand slam very early. I remember. I think that was Johnny Damon.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
It just was like, okay. I mean, yeah, it was over. That one was over before it began.
Then the Dave Roberts stolen base, and then David Ortiz figuring out Mariano Rivera. He's the only hitter who figured him out, really. Nobody else able to figure him out. It's like, goddamn, Big Poppy. But at the same time, a ton of respect for him. He's one of the best hitters of all time. He couldn't play defense, but one of the best hitters of all time, you know?
No, defense was not his thing. So, but this
Yeah,
was
I have
so
to.
fun.
Yeah. It's
This
been a
was so
couple months
fun.
since I had you on, so I was like, okay, let me go back
Oh,
to her.
I'll hang out with you anytime.
Okay, well, at least the Yankees won recently. The Pirates haven't won since the 70s. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, no,
if you're a
the
Pirates fan,
Pirates.
yeah. Yeah, that's brutal for you. And they have another brutal year too again, most likely. But yeah, I do have to, maybe one day we'll come back and before the season starts and just talk baseball for an hour and a half.
Yes, we should do a baseball
Yeah.
show, or we could even do like a rewatch of some classic Sox Yankees game or something.
A watch along. That might problem is it's like 3 hours long, and I could probably do that. We'll talk about it. I
That
might.
could be kind of fun.
Yeah, and we'll basically do a preview of the Red Sox and Yankees, talk baseball for an hour and a half.
Yeah, we could do that. All right,
Yes.
anything you want. I'm
Yeah,
here.
yeah. I'll talk to you about it, and I'll DM you at some point. But yeah, I mean, thank you for coming on, and thank everybody
you
for
for having
watching.
me.
Please like,
Thank
please
you.
subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'm gonna see you guys next week because I gotta get out of here because INN News comes up in like 10 minutes. And oh yeah, before I thank you for reminding me. I have a new wrestling podcast. If you're interested in pro wrestling, tomorrow 8 o'clock Eastern with Witchy Perfect. She's there. Thank you for reminding me and putting it in there because I would have forgotten about it. So that's 8 o'clock tomorrow night. So right here on these channels, look for, if you're a wrestling fan, you'll definitely enjoy our new podcast. If not, then don't watch. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, everybody. Thank you, Karen, for coming on again. And I'll see you guys next week with a new guest.